Good morning, James. Chapman, the one, the only dolphin with eyebrows. Chapman.
You got to move on to something new.
I'm never going to.
You got to move on to something new.
No, I don't. That's literally how people like ask me about you. Is you still doing that podcast with the dolphin with eyebrows? You still doing that little podcast?
That little podcast, huh?
Yeah. You still doing that little podcast?
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Little do you know, we got people in Australia and China that listen to us now. So
China.
How tiny is this podcast now, boy?
Bitches.
Hey, something I was thinking about on the top of my head.
Talk to me.
Did you ever go through a moment when life felt complacent or as if you were just not going through the motion? Yeah, going through the motions. Did you ever go through that?
Yeah, I don't think the question should really be, have I ever? It's how often do I,
Right.
like, yeah, of course. I mean, we're creatures of habit.
Mhm.
Most of us are. I'd like to think probably all of us are at some level. I'm definitely one. Yeah, so sometimes it can absolutely feel like I'm going through the motions, but it's because I've lost, my why
Mhm.
or my light at the end of the tunnel, my North Star, whatever the case may be. So yes, I have.
Okay. So that there was a solid period of time when I was going through building the company, hiring people, losing people, that I felt as if like I was just treading water and I wasn't going anywhere. Right. Um, and that thought process has come up because I've talked to a few different people lately, and that seems to be something that's a common thing, right? And we know that. And at the time, I labeled it as like a quarter life crisis, right?
Yeah.
Um, and it's funny because that same thought came up in the conversation, right? Being young, going through those things, not really knowing where the other side is, and then also figuring out like, you know, if you're just that duck in the water that's just treading its feet, but it's not going anywhere. It's just there, right? And you're just consistently just trying to go, but you're not really sure where you're headed. Um, and it falls back to just like what you said, like what is that purpose? And I feel like purpose can be such a broad term um, that we talk about the why, like why we do what we do, why we, wake up every day, why we grind.
Mhm.
In other words, um, but I think it's also about focusing on the things that you do, right, and understanding that there's a purpose in everything that is going on in your life, right,
Mhm.
and how that process of the time that you wake up, the drive to work, the conversations that you have while you're there, like all of this stuff that we do during the week, and then the stuff that we do on the weekends, like if it's the same things that you're doing and you're having a hard time realizing like, man, I'm just doing the same stuff every day. Take a look at how your relationships with the environment around you are affecting you, right? Because a lot of things that we don't think about and that I didn't think about until I read that book, Atomic Habits, was we all like everything that we have, like everything that we go to, every place that we go to, everything that we own, our phone, we all have a relationship with those things. And they're not just things, they're not just places, they're not just items. You have a relationship with everything that you have, right?
Yeah.
For me, like when I was younger, it was if I got in the truck for a drive, I was going to put a dip in,
Mm.
right? Because I
Okay.
associated driving with that. Every time I drive by a Starbucks, I get the association with I need a coffee. Still had
Yeah.
none, right? And so it's about looking at your relationships and how you interact with the environment around you, and then you're able to associate actual purpose to those, right? And I think that's something that helped me pull out of that feeling of mundaneness. Because there's even times today where I'm like, I don't necessarily think about it, but I'm going through emotions, and then I have to pull myself out and maybe take that deep breath or realize where my associations and my relationships are,
Hmm.
right? Because something that I realized a while ago was I worked my entire 20s. I literally worked my entire 20s. I was going to go out the other night, and I had about three people I could hit it up, and that was it. You get what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
you there's certain associations, but there's a purpose behind why I was doing what I was doing and when I did it. Right? There's a reason why I work my 20s. It's so that when I'm in my 30s, I'm balling, son.
Yeah.
And then I have the time to do what I need to do.
Yeah, I think that comes back to, I mean, when when Danny and I got married, I was 23. Um, we didn't have Dylan till I was 20. Geez, how old was I? 29. I think I was 29 when she was born. So, so I mean, we did stuff on the weekends with our friends and stuff, but like nothing during the week. And it eventually got on the weekends where we didn't do much at all. Maybe go out to eat and then we were back home, right? Like,
Yeah.
and we had a pretty small, tight knit group of friends we hung out with on the regular. But dude, like, it was never going out during the week ever.
Yeah.
It was go home. We worked all through our 20s. And you know what, though? Like now, I get to have a lot more fun because I did that.
Yeah.
I thought my 20s were pretty fun. My 30s have been so much more fun. Um, I can't imagine what it's going to be like in my 40s, you
Oh,
know. But I mean, 30s have been way more fun to me than my 20s were.
yeah. But I
So
think there's something to that is understanding that if you are young in the sense of like if you're 20, right, and you're not doing the normal 20 thing where you're going out every weekend and you're not doing this, you're not doing that, but you're doing something during the week and you're focusing on the weekends, like that there's something to working your 20s versus the alternative, right? And I think that when you're in that phase or like you're in the outer phase of that where you're kind of coming out of that and you're like, fuck man, I haven't hung out with anybody, I haven't done anything. It's important to take consideration up here in your thoughts of like there's a reason I'm doing what I'm doing, right? And it's sometimes it's hard to relate with other people that are your age.
yeah, I mean, I can see that, but see now but that's kind of see that's what's so much fun to me is like now I have a group I hang out with that is um there's four couples,
Mhm.
us included, right? And we got some kids of different ages and stuff, but like we're all become super, super tight knit. And it is so rewarding because they all work hard, they all got obligations. So, we don't do a lot together. When we do, we have a great time, man.
Yeah.
And and maybe we go more out. So the other weekend we went out. Now this is the first time we've done this, but we talked about doing it more. We hadn't really done much together. So we went out, all of us couples went out, no kids. I mean, we got done. We just said, hey, we're going to sit down. We're just going to have the best meal ever. All the appetizers, bottles of whatever we want. And when we finish, we're just going to split the bill up. Well, it was a $1,500 bill.
Baller.
No, and that's not. I'm not
Yeah,
saying like
I
that.
know
Like
why you're saying it. I know you're saying
you know what I mean. Like we're not going to do that again for a while.
yeah.
But man, what an amazing experience.
But that's the purpose. The reason I said baller was not because of the size of the bill, but because you were willing to do it for the experience of what was happening.
Yeah, for
Going
sure.
back to the conversation of last week.
Hmm. Exactly. And it was a great time. I mean, you know, but I don't want to do that every weekend. Money spent aside, I don't want to do that. Some weekends I got to do my thing to
Plenty,
recenter
yeah.
myself by myself, right? Maybe that's me putting in earbuds and drinking a cold beer while I cut grass.
Mhm.
Whatever it may be, right? But I will say this, in your 20s, especially if you're living for the weekend, I get that, especially like if you're single and you're going out having fun, like you should be energized if that's what that part of your life you're trying to live right now. But if that is all you're living for, you are fucking crazy. And you're going to look back on that if that's all you live for. Like you're going to start a job at the bottom, you're going to work some shitty positions, but like do not be afraid to try something if you don't feel like there's advancement. Like go try something. You're single, especially if you're living at home still. Oh my
Yep.
God, like what are you thinking? Like go try some new stuff, man. What's the worst that happens? You
That's right.
freaking fail, go broke. You're living with mom and dad. You're already broke. You spend every penny you have anyways. Like, so what's the point? If you say, well, that's not for me, I'm going to stick it out. I'm going to do this. I think I have opportunity there. Then go balls deep on it.
To second that, I think your 20s are meant for building skill for the future, right? If you do it correctly and you catch a mentor and you catch that wave, like you catch the coattails of somebody and you focus on honing that skill, that pays dividends in the future massively. Because now you're catching that curve, and that bell curve, man, it can be shortened. It can be shortened. And if you're building up those skills and you're putting in the time and you're putting in knowledge, right? And I think that's why college is such a pushed thing. And it may because there's obviously other financial benefits to the people who push college, but the concept of getting a skill and becoming a master or really good at that skill in your 20s and then bombing, like just going balls in your late 20s. Boy, that's a hard guy to beat. That's a hard
For
guy to
sure.
beat. Or
I
women.
mean, how old are you now?
28.
And you're now a licensed broker, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's some people that are 28 still figuring out life, and that's fine.
Hmm.
It's fine. Just know where you're at and
Yeah.
and know what you got to do to get where you want. Frankly, if you're 28 and just figuring out where you want to go, like, hey, there's a guy right now or a girl right now that's 28 saying, hey, I've never had anything real that I can call my own. I'm going to go get my real estate license, right?
Yeah.
It's probably happening daily. Good deal. Frankly, you got an advantage over the guy that started like Addison at 22 or 21.
Yeah.
I don't know how old you were when you started, but you probably got a little bit at 28 compared to when you're 21 or whatever.
The
You got a
knowledge is
little
different.
better. Yeah. You got maybe some better connections just in general because your friends have grown up too. Like, so your time will be shortened, but you still got to put in the time,
Yeah.
you know? Um, I'm with you. I mean, now I'm reaping what I sowed. I mean, I'm 38. I started at 19. I'm hitting 19 years in this industry at 38.
Yeah.
So it freaking sucked at first. You know what I mean? Like
Oh
really,
yeah.
really bad.
Oh yeah. But
But
there's something to it. There's something to exactly what you're saying.
well, I think it just goes back to the fact that there is a price to pay.
Hmm.
You want something you want to get something out of it. You have to put something in. Wherever you're at, there is a price to pay to achieve it. And I don't know why that scares people though. Like, isn't that anything in life? If somebody wants something from you, don't they have to put something in to get that from you?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
your spouse gets more, your child gets more from you maybe child's not a good example. They're like the one exception, you know, like all they got to do is just be born. I mean, that's your blood. You got to do what you got to do. But like, you take your spouse, your significant other, um, they've had to earn that, right? Just like you've had to earn with them. I mean, that's the way the world works. Like, quit trying to fight nature on that shit.
Yeah. Which things that flow easily is probably the best path. Like if you look at anything in nature, like birds don't try to fly, they just fly, right? Fish don't try to swim, they just swim. So look at how your life flows, right? Obviously look at the negative stuff, be self-aware of what's going on, but the concept of what is what is easy for you, right? And I don't mean that like sitting on the couch. I mean easy in the sense of like you put some time and some focus on something. What puts you in that flow state? Because when you're in that flow state, you are multiplying everything, right? For me, sometimes it's just being on the phone with a client. Like when shit's hitting the fan and like people just are freaking out, like that's my flow state. Call me. Because they're not. Go ahead.
I hear what you're saying, but I mean, okay, so why did you get in real estate?
It was my option.
It was your
That's it.
option.
Yeah.
I didn't hear one of your options. I heard that was your option,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. Same for me with insurance. I got offered an opportunity. I was tired of fucking cutting grass. I had to figure out. My dad had already told me. I mean, I was I was responsible, but I didn't know what I wanted to do with myself. So I was kind of stuck, right? I was just like, I didn't know where I wanted to go. My dad was just like, man, you either got to get back in school or you got to find a real job. Like you
Yeah.
got to do something where you can go somewhere, and cutting grass is not it. And I knew he was right. I just didn't know what I wanted to do. Anyways, the offer came up. I took it. I knew nothing about insurance. There was plenty I didn't like about it. I didn't think it was a natural flow for me. I mean, I was good with talking with people, but I mean, that offer could have been 100 other things, right? It could have been pharmaceutical sales. It could have been car sales. Who knows? It's just the thing that came in front of me. And then as I started working it, I had to learn to fall in love with it
Yeah.
and realize what I actually was doing that was good for people. Just like now, what you're doing is good for people. Yeah. I don't know, man. I think most of us aren't going to just find the thing we love or the natural flow. I think
See,
we I think we adapt to what's in front of us, and we either like embrace it and see the good in it, or we do like we do everything else in life. We just kind of float aimlessly through it and wait
so
for the week.
to pin on that, right? You're right. You do have to put. There's going to be some adversity. There's going to be some pieces where you're going to have to figure things out, right? There's that. That's part of it. That's just life. The flow that I'm talking about is the fact that the insurance opportunity came up and not construction. The flow of life, right?
Mm,
The
okay.
flow of opportunity that comes in. It's important to be self-aware or being present in the situation of saying, okay, this opportunity came up. There's a reason why this opportunity came up.
Okay. I'm following you.
That's the flow that I'm speaking of.
Okay.
And then being able to understand like where your flow, like your personal internal flow comes into that option, right? Into that opportunity. So there's a reason why you were able to multiply, right? There's some things off the podcast that we've talked about. There's there's a reason why you've been able to multiply where you're at based off of that flow that came in, right? You didn't fight
Mhm.
it. You doubled down into the opportunity that came up. You had the option to not go with insurance.
Oh
And
yeah.
where would you have been, right? Who knows?
Who knows, dude?
But the fact that you've worked and you flowed with the flow and said this is the opportunity that came into my pocket and it's a good opportunity, it's a positive opportunity, not a negative, right?
Mhm.
It's positive, so I'm going to flow into it and see what happens. There's going to be some adversity. There's times where you didn't want to do it. There's times where shit hit the fan, right? There's that's going to happen. But you moved with it and you didn't fight that internal
Yeah.
struggle, maybe, but not
Yeah.
You didn't fight the fact that you weren't going to go to work. You weren't not
Oh yeah.
going to go up.
Yeah. I mean, I had plenty of doubts if I would cut it, you know. Sometimes it beat me up so bad. But
That imposter syndrome's a bitch.
yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, especially when I started out, I was so young. And I looked like I was 12. There's a lot of that.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
So yeah, man, really good points.
Yeah,
Really good
yeah.
points. But also, like I said, kind of, you know, you get what you put in kind of thing. It's like I say, and you probably say as well, like real estate's been good to you, right?
It's been beautiful.
But you've been really good to it.
I try to caress the hell out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. So same for me, man. Insurance has been really good for me, but I've been really good to it too. I've committed to uh, this trade. I mean, I've committed to bettering myself in it, taking risk, staying true to it. Like it's like anything else, man. It's like a jealous lover. Like you don't give it the attention it deserves, it'll go to somebody else.
That's right. That's right. And that's that flow. Give it the
Mhm.
attention, work on it, be patient with it, punish it when it needs to be punished, and then also be able to focus on and show the love that it needs.
Yeah,
Right?
I agree. So do that. If you're just living for the weekend, hey man, be excited about your weekends. Be excited about the stuff that doesn't involve just your career. I get it. But if last weekend, for example, for me, my kid was sick, my wife was sick. So basically, it was a sit around, do nothing kind of weekend. I was miserable by the end of the Sunday night. Like I was miserable because I literally accomplished nothing for my weekend. I try to go into my weekend with the same ambition that I go in with my work. Like I want to plan something out. If I'm going to do something, if it's entertainment, if it's like getting something done around the house, working in my shop, whatever it is, I want to go in with purpose. So, you know, I don't sit in my fucking pajamas until noon.
Yeah.
That's just me. Like that's, you know, I want to go in with some ambition for my weekend. And recharge. Recharge is not me, my ass going numb from sitting on the couch all weekend.
Yeah.
So,
That's an important fact.
yeah, you should plan it and schedule it and, you know, plot things for that just like you do for your week.
Yeah.
And if you're not doing either, shame on you.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a tough call. Um, yeah. I think that's the takeaway, right?
Yeah.
Be self-aware enough to understand that you have opportunities that are coming to you, and it's important to dial in on what's coming your way.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to work the hell out of your 20s. Like we've got some young listeners on here, right? It's Don't be afraid of that.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to go against the grid on that.
Yeah. And I'm not over here looking down on it. Trust me, we've ran across people that blow my mind how ambitious they are, how focused they are in their 20s, that have, um, they're going to smoke past me so hard by the time they're my age. It's crazy, man. You know, and there's nothing you can go back and change the past. But,
No.
you know, also remember like Sam Walton started Walmart in his 40s. I think he was like 45. Like you overestimate what you can do in a year, you underestimate what you can do in a fucking decade.
That's
Like
right.
don't sell yourself short. If you're saying, well, I'm not in my 20s or whatever, like then get after it, man. Today's here right now. Like what's going to happen? Before we started this podcast, I was deep in something. I already told, like I told Addison straight up, I know he's got the same. Hey man, let's get to this. Let's get to the point. I'm excited about the podcast, but I got shit to do and I want to get it done. Like I'm really focused on finishing this stuff out. So, you know, stay after it.
That's right.
It happens to be Friday. I don't know when you're going to listen to this. This is Friday right now. This is in chill mode. Let's just close out the week, button it up, put a bow on it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Handle the business.
All right, let's wrap this thing up. Speaking of it,
Let's do it. So, with all that being said, don't forget to show our support, or don't forget to show your support to our listeners. What? I'm all over the map, man. Don't forget to show support to the people who support us, um, and check out Jocko Fuel as well as originusa.com. When you get to checkout, don't forget to put in the code GRIND10, and that's GRIND10, and get yourself 10% off. Save you some money. That's always a good move. And then with that being said, as usual, we appreciate you, listener. Yeah, you, the one listening to this in your headphones or in your car. We appreciate you more than you ever know. Um, because without this, it's just an awkward conversation between James and I. And I say awkward in the most beautiful way. With that being said, James, close us out, man.
grinder out.